it is not.
Uh,
There we go. It's working now.
okay, yeah, good.
I just had to play with it a little.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to Escape Reality Star Wars Talk. I'm your host, Caleb.
Hello, I'm Seth.
And so we are here to talk about Padawan,
Yeah.
but we also got a little bit of news first.
Mm-hmm.
So what do we want to talk about first, I guess, out of the news-ish stuff that's going on? I wouldn't say news, like, there's nothing like serious news. Lego Star Wars Summer Vacation's out. We're going to talk about that next week.
So, I'm a little bit confused. Is that a game, a show?
It's a special.
Okay, so it's like a...
It's like an hour-long special. That's it.
All right.
So kind of like the holiday special that they did and the Halloween one they did.
Halloween special.
Yeah, they did a Halloween one too.
Why did they do that?
Because they took
I'm puzzled.
because they were following the Tales from Vader's Fortress comics. They basically did that,
Where they
but Lego.
They go to the evil... Don't go to...
Except Vader's dead at this point.
Don't go there.
Too bad Vinay is still like really creepy and and he's still alive. But yeah, because each Lego special is focusing on one of the three main characters from the sequels.
Yeah.
So the holiday special focuses on Rey, and kind of just her journey of, because all of them take place after Episode 9, so after all the films, and so first one focuses on Rey, and then the second one focuses on Poe, and the newest one that is out now, Summer Vacation, focuses on Finn.
All right.
So, they're all good. I like them. I wish. So the way that Lego works is that they aren't canon at all.
Okay.
The only thing I wish is that, like, I don't mind that the Lego side of it's not canon. I just kind of wish that there was like a canon interpretation of the stories, because I like the stories, and I kind of wish like they were still fitting in canon, because there's other Lego stuff post Disney that I like that I wish were considered canon, like Freemaker Adventures. That was a TV show, and it was all in Lego though, so because of that it wasn't canon, even though a lot of cool concepts were introduced there, and I was like, oh, that would be cool. Oh well. And so yeah. But it's out now. I watched it, but you haven't watched it yet because you don't have Disney Plus. We'll probably watch it Tuesday and then talk about it.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about it next week. It was already on the schedule for next week because I knew it was coming out. So beyond that, we also got the next announcement of the next wave of Essential Legends collection books that are being reprinted. And so we are getting Dawn of the Jedi Into the Void, which is the furthest back in Legends and canon that we've gotten, but it's a Legends book, because Essential Legends collection. So all these are not canon. These are just reprints of older books that people liked. Not sure how they pick which books to reprint, but I would assume it's based on popularity to a degree.
Yeah.
And then we've got Republic Commando Hard Contact, which I believe is the first of the Republic Commando books. Based on the Republic Commando video game. And then Yoda Dark Rendezvous, which is a Clone Wars era story as well. So two Clone Wars era books, because Republic Commando is Clone Wars era.
All right.
And so I guess if they're doing Republic Commando Hard Contact, if it is the first book, that means they're going to do the whole set. I was going to say trilogy, but I forgot technically there's like 4 books, because there's the Republic Commando trilogy, and then they do Imperial Commando, which is technically still part of the same book series. There's 5 books. Sorry. Because there's Hard Contact, 000, True Colors, which is the main trilogy, and then you got Order 66, which is a Republic Commando novel, seeing the transition, and then you've got Imperial Commando, or 501st is what it's called, which is the first actual Imperial Commando novel. I think they'll probably do all 5 books if they're doing it. I'm interested. The thing that interests me the most with the Essential Legends collections is always the cover art, because the cover art's always pretty good, and then also the redoing of the audiobooks, because they redo some of the audiobooks. Like this past week, 2 books came out. I had early copies. I got to review them. It was for Wave 4. We got the Krytos Trap, which is part of the X-Wing series. And then we had Darth Maul Shadowhunter. And I got to have the audiobooks of those. And so they were done really well. The Darth Maul one was read by Sam Witwer, the voice of Darth Maul from Clone Wars.
All right.
And then our boy Mark Thompson got to read the Krytos Trap. I think he's been doing all the X-Wing redos, though. So, or republishings, I should say. Re-recordings. I'm trying to think what the right term would be. I guess re-recordings. And so, that's basically what that is all about. It's basically a way for them to remarket the books and do new cover art, do a reprinting. Honestly, a thinner printing. It's the tall type of trade paperback, not the normal traditional trade paperback where it's like, because a traditional one's more square looking. You know what I mean? And then this one is a little more tall, so it's less pages because it's taller, which fits better on my shelf. So, works for me.
Look at you with your tall books.
Yeah. Too bad hardcovers, while tall, are also still thick, and so that ruins it. So I'm like, I like having hardcovers, but they don't look great on my...
Your shelf, man. You're gonna run out of stuff to...
No, if they keep reprinting things in thinner form, then I won't. I actually am already out of room. What are you talking about? I'm at a point where I'm double space. Like, I'm using double this, like I have stuff in front of other things.
Oh, no.
But not for Star Wars. Star Wars, I keep single. Everything else, I'm like, you are the sacrifice. You will now be double.
Be doubled up.
Yeah. And then, so that's it for books news. There was some other stuff we saw. Oh, Gwendolyn Christie talked about how she wants to come back as Phasma.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, kind of a duh moment. Like, if you're in a big franchise, yeah, of course you want to come back. But at the same time, there's a lot I think you can do with the character, so I wouldn't be upset to see Phasma.
And like I said, I wouldn't hate it.
I think it matters on the story.
Like it, yeah.
I think it matters on what story they're telling. So, like, if and when. Like, I wouldn't mind seeing Phasma start. It wouldn't be yet, but like in later seasons, depending how far into Mando the timeline goes, or how far in the timeline Mando goes, I wouldn't mind seeing her in Mandalorian as we get closer and closer to the sequels. Or even in, like, other stuff that's similar, like other stuff that's in that era of, like, before the sequels, but also,
Yeah.
Although I still hold firm that I wouldn't be surprised if she somehow survived her death in Episode 8. But Star Wars is starting to have a bringing people back to life problem to a degree, so I wouldn't want that anymore. Like, when it first happened, sure, I would have been excited for her to come back, but like post Episode 8, but now I'm more like, bring her back before Episode 8. Like, that's kind of where I'm at now. And then John Boyega had some comments also about Lucasfilm. So, one of his big things went after the sequels were done, he talked about his treatment on the set, and it wasn't good. They had people who didn't know how to work with black hair in the hair and makeup department, and so that was a problem. And then, because you got to have people that know what they're doing with certain types of hair. And so he talked about that. He talked about how there was a lot of like just racism, but not like a like out front racism, more of like just small things that slowly get to you as you're especially when you're working on a project for so many years.
Yeah.
Because I mean, these films took up 3, 6, probably about 8 to 9 of his years.
Yeah.
So I get it. And so he's talked about how there was a lot of problems in Lucasfilm and with the fandom as well.
Yeah.
But now he's come out and talked about how Lucasfilm has kind of changed. That's what happened in a recent interview. He's talked about how they've been more supportive of their actors following what he went through.
Yeah.
And I think that's good. That shows that, hey, he called them out deservedly, and they listened. And so that's why because there's a lot of people in the fandom that are like, oh, that will use him as a reason for like remember when Obi-Wan came out and they were all Star Wars Twitter posted was, hey, don't be racist, and then everybody lost their fucking minds over that. Like, you vaguely remember that and me ranting about that?
Yeah.
So a lot of those people will be like, oh, you shouldn't be telling us not to be racist because look what you did to John Boyega. Well, now John Boyega is saying that no, this is a sign that they've been changing. So now they really shouldn't weaponize John Boyega's experience this way, but especially to be racist. That's kind of. But I think a lot of people are going to ignore that he did this interview, much like a lot of people tend to ignore Mark Hamill when he talks about how he liked The Last Jedi after seeing it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people will say, oh, Mark Hamill said he hated Last Jedi when working on it, which is true. He did say that in that interview. He said, hey, I wasn't a fan of the script while working on it, but then I saw it afterwards and was like, oh, this is actually really good. I liked what they did with my character, with Luke's journey. And it's literally in the next sentence of that same interview.
When you are in a group project, no one likes working on it.
Yeah.
Until you see what you've been able to do.
Yeah. Well, especially if you aren't in any control of it, and you just have to work with the script. In the case of a film, you got to work with the script, because everybody forgets that a film is not just a one-person effort. It's a collaborative team effort. Everybody's working together to make this thing, and so whenever you attack just one person for it, it kind of. Although in the case of Last Jedi, they like to attack 2 people. They like to attack Kathleen Kennedy and Rian Johnson. But even then, it took more than them to make the film. It was a collaborative effort.
No one yells at the guy in the lighting department.
And I mean, you can be mad at Rian. If you don't like the writing, fine. You can say you don't like the writing, but to say it's objectively a bad movie or to attack somebody because they were in it or worked on it, like to attack an actor, for example, which is also a phenomenon that happens a lot in the Star Wars fandom. I mean, they were just doing what they were told. They're an actor. They just read the line and performed it the way they were told to, for the most part. And so, like, to say, oh, you're a terrible actor or you're a bad person even, which is stuff that gets thrown out, like, what does that have to do with this? You can say, I didn't like your performance. That's more constructive criticism, to be like, hey, I wish you kind of did this. But to say you were objectively bad, I don't think objectivity really exists in film, because it's an art. Art doesn't really have objectivities to it. That's kind of the definition of art, is everything is subjective. Everybody has their own emotions about how they feel about something when it comes to art. That's just my 2 cents on it. And so I like that John Boyega has had this voice, both to criticize Disney and Lucasfilm, but also to now be like, hey, they are doing the work to do better.
So, in regards to that, I'll say two things.
Yep.
One, I didn't think he was like a bad actor or anything.
Oh no, nobody ever complained about John Boyega's performance. He's actually somebody that people have protected.
I don't dislike Finn's deal throughout the story.
I like the first two films arc. Like I like the arc in the first film, which is basically learning to have courage and be able to defend what you care about. That's his arc in the first one. Specifically in the case of Rey, he comes to be like, oh, I'm not going to run anymore. I'm going to defend who I care about, Rey. The second Last Jedi's arc is learning to care about learning to care about something bigger. Because he goes from just caring about Rey to caring about the Resistance and the galaxy as a whole, and learning. Because he still tries to run in Last Jedi, not run away, but run to help Rey, which would have left the Resistance and the galaxy as a whole in a worse spot if he had. Like, sure, they don't win at the end of Last Jedi, because one of the lessons of Last Jedi is failure and how it's important to be able to move on from failure and take the lessons you learn in failure. Which is why they still lose. But Finn's personal arc is going from caring about a single person to something greater. Episode 9 doesn't really have a lesson, I don't think. He doesn't really have an arc that I can personally see. Now, somebody can find that arc and be like, hey, this is... Oh, yeah, well, welcome to the chat, Drunk. We're talking about currently John Boyega and his comments about how he's noticed that Disney and Lucasfilm have been shifting in terms for the better. But we are about to start talking about Padawan after this. But yeah, like, I don't really... Like, if somebody can tell me, hey, I see this arc for him in 9, I'm willing to rewatch the film and look and examine that, rather than just shut that conversation down, which is what a lot of the more toxic side of the fandom would do. They would just be like, I don't care that you see that. I don't see it, so it's not there. And it's like, you could at least watch it again with your eyes open for it. And if you still don't see it, that's fine, because not all lessons are going to be something that you notice or for you.
The other thing I will say, a good employer will listen to their employee when they notice things that are bad.
Yeah. And so I think in the case of Disney and Lucasfilm, I think they're doing a good job. He's saying they're doing a good job, and if he was the one who was complaining before and he says they're doing a better job now, I'm going to listen to that, because he was the one that was being offended, right? He has the right to forgive them and say, hey, they've done better. It's not up to me to say... At the end of the day, it's not up to me to say that they're doing better, because I wasn't the one that was affected by what they were doing.
Yeah.
So if he says they are, that's great, and I hope that means that he wants to work with them again, because a lot of fans hope he wants to work with them again, because it would be great to see Finn again.
I wouldn't mind it, because I'm gonna be real, I'm getting tired of all these motherfuckers.
I want to see Finn again, especially because they've made a lot of hints. Yeah. Towards, especially in 9, of his Force usability. I wasn't going to say sensitivity, because once again we're trying to get rid of that term. Because they hint at it in 9, and even in 7 it's kind of hinted at, but it's not ever stated in any of the films.
Well, you know my thoughts on Force users.
But also they're not Jedi, because Rey kind of sets up her own ideology based on what she's learned over the saga. Like, she still calls it Jedi, but it's so different at this point. Even Luke's Jedi were different by the time we hit that time to era, because, I mean, hell, just look at the 200-year difference between the High Republic Jedi and the prequel era Jedi.
Yeah.
Like,
that's the problem with long-term organizations.
I think it's a problem, but it's also
founding principles are not necessarily always carried over.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, like, they can say them, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the spirit of them is still there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it could be a problem or a good thing depending on what stuff is being lost versus what's being kept. So, like, if the bad parts are being lost, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Which, yeah. And I think in the case of Luke's Jedi, he didn't know how to train Jedi.
Yeah, no,
he literally, his training was being shot at by a probe droid, by the training droid, and lifting some rocks and carrying Yoda and going into a tree where he fought himself. That was his train. Yeah. That was the extent of his training.
Like, all he knew is, like, the practical use. And we see it in Trail of Shadows. He's good at using it. He's not good at explaining it.
Yeah, he's also not good at... He's not a good teacher. No. And it's not his fault. It's not his fault. Because he just was never taught how to teach.
Also, both of his teachers essentially dipped.
I mean, yeah, dying is dipping. Cool. Yoda died of old age.
Yoda died of old age. That's not really it.
Obi-Wan sacrificed himself to get Luke and Leia off the Death Star. That's not dipping either. Because if he did,
in that sense,
because if he did,
what I meant.
Because if he didn't sacrifice himself, they would have been caught. And then what would happen? Oh,
a very short series.
Yeah, but yeah, like.
But
yeah, Luke.
He's never had.
He does.
Teacher for an extended period. Of time.
No. Obi-Wan was like probably less than a month, and Yoda was maybe a month.
Yeah.
And then, outside of that, he's had practical experience because he's fought other Force users.
Yeah.
And but he doesn't have the experience to be a teacher.
Yeah.
And you kind of need that. You need to be able to. And he has and he doesn't just have practical use. He also does have knowledge of things because he finds all these old Jedi texts. Because after Return of the Jedi, that's what he spends most of the first couple years doing, is just looking for Jedi artifacts. Yep. And he finds a bunch of stuff, and he finds Jedi texts, and he's read them, I assume.
Yeah.
And so, like.
He's also been picking up some stuff that I should probably have not have.
But but otherwise you also risk worse people finding them.
Yeah.
So that's where the issue lies there. And so, so yeah, he doesn't have, and we see that with how he interacts with Ben in Shadow of the Sith.
Yeah.
He doesn't know how to talk to his own nephew as a student.
Yeah.
Or as a family member. Like, he doesn't really know how to do either.
Oh, yeah. Why is that? Because all but one of his family members is fucking gone.
And then it's also...
And also his sister, who... They barely hang out.
As far as we know, yeah.
Yeah, even in the comics, that from, like, War of the Bounty Hunters...
They work together,
They work together, but they don't...
Because Luke is still doing his own things, trying to discover what being a Jedi means. Because he doesn't have a teacher, so he's got to go do it himself.
Yep.
And it's just like, is that the guy we really want teaching a brand new academy? And we already see the even before Shadow of the Sith, we see some of his downfall of being a teacher with Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
With how he interacts with Grogu. He's good at teaching Grogu the basics. And he's like, yeah, you got to close your mind, you got to open your mind, you got to, meditate, all that stuff. He gets all that right. And I think I'm starting to come to the realize, no, you're good. I'm starting to think he gets to the point where because I disagree with it, with people saying that him doing the choice thing to Grogu was bad, but I'm starting to get to the point where I see where it might have been.
Mm.
Because I don't think he was doing it for attachment reasons. He was doing it more for, you need to make your choice because you're either going to commit your life to being a Jedi or you're not. There is no middle ground.
No, part-time.
Yeah, and I think that's really what that lesson was for Grogu was, do you want to be a Jedi or do you just think you should be because you have the Force?
Yeah. But also, he did mention like, "Hey, time for you is a lot different."
Yeah,
from
like
everybody else.
like you can come back at any time. Like I might be dead, but if you still want to, if you decide years down the road you do want this training,
Yeah, he's like, "You're gonna live for like almost 1,000 years. I will probably not be around by then."
yeah, like you can live your whole life with your Mando dad and still come back and be like, hey, I want to be. But yeah. So let's talk about Padawan.
Yes.
So, new book came out, Padawan, by Kirsten White.
Mm-hmm.
I did the regular book this time. I didn't do the audiobook because I got to read it before it came out. I liked it.
Yeah.
Let's kind of give a. I'd say it's still pretty soon because I know some people who haven't read it, so we'll try to keep it a little. We'll do some specific stuff, but we'll keep it mostly. Nah, I think we'll do what we normally do.
All
So,
right.
spoiler warning.
Yep. Spoiler warning for this book. We're gonna get into some stuff.
So this is early on in Obi-Wan's
Yeah.
Padawan ship to, or apprenticeship, either way, apprenticeship to Qui-Gon.
Mm-hmm.
Like, probably within the first
Very
year.
Yeah.
So earlier than Master and Apprentice, which you have listened somewhat to with me.
Yeah.
And so has Constance, who's in the chat.
Because at this point, they're not going on missions together.
Not yet. Right now, Qui-Gon is literally just teaching Obi-Wan how to meditate at the Jedi Temple.
And Obi-Wan, he doesn't like it.
Because he feels like he's behind.
Yeah. Because
Because he was already late to getting an apprenticeship. Because he's
16.
16. That's right. He's 16.
Yeah, and don't most of them...
Is that okay? I'm sorry. Oh yeah, I forgot she did listen to the whole book with me. You only heard bits and pieces.
Yeah. You explained the plot of Master and Apprentice to me.
Yeah.
So.
But so with back to Padawan. But yeah, so he's kind of feeling like he's behind because he was 16 when he got his apprenticeship.
And
whereas most of them got it at like
12
or 13, yeah. Most of them got picked up at 12 or 13. And he also feels like there's a bit of a strain between him and Qui-Gon.
Yeah.
Where he's like, I don't know if we are a good fit.
Yeah.
Which is something that continues on in the Master and Apprentice. Like, it's something that's throughout most of their relationship.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, he's also, he
also feels kind of like he and his fellow Padawans are like drifting apart.
Yes, because they were all part of the same creche.
Yeah, which is like, I'm going to call it Jedi kindergarten.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Strain was insane in Master and Apprentice. Here it's arguably worse. Because they barely talk in this book.
Yeah, Qui-Gon's in this book for like 4 chapters out of 40.
Yeah, he's barely in this. So like, yes, because like, so we started the book with like him at the like the cafeteria, like the Padawan
cafeteria. And Obi-Wan's like,
He's eating some soup when all of a sudden this creature hops out of it and starts attacking him.
Yeah.
It turns out that it was a little prank from Bola, a fellow Padawan, who was part of his creche when he was younger. Rodian Padawan, right?
I think so.
Yeah, a Rodian. And so like he gets upset.
He's like,
because it scratched him.
Yeah.
Or bit him. It bit him. It was like a. What was it? A squid?
It is called a demon squid.
Demon squid, that's right.
I don't know why someone would put a demon squid in one's soup.
Hey, now it turns out that the demon squid is just it's a cute little baby.
Little baby.
Because what's her name? Who is it that calms it down? It's Pre.
Yeah.
Pre calms it down.
And so.
Because Pre is because Pre understands creatures.
Yes.
That's one of her specific studies of being a Jedi. She's focused on like animals
She
and
her master like to go to planets and interact with the wildlife.
yeah, which there is a force technique that like connects people to animals.
Obi-Wan's not great at it.
No, I mean once again that's like master like apprentice because in the Obi-Wan and Anakin comic, Anakin also struggled with connecting to animals.
I'm of the opinion. No, I'll save that for later.
But yeah, so Pre calms him down a bit and it's like, look, it was just a prank, bro. Bola was just messing with you. Obi-Wan is still fuming, but he's just like, now I can never trust Soup ever again.
I feel like this does save his life at some point. Maybe that's why he's so wary whenever he's like drinking or eating stuff. Because we've seen people try to like jump him while he's drinking or eating, do you think?
Yeah. And then, but he's also kind of missing one of his other friends from the creche who's on a mission, Siri Tachi, who is canonically a crush of his that he's had.
Yeah.
It's also in Legends, a connection. She's a character that was originally in Legends, so it was nice seeing Siri brought into canon. She was brought into canon earlier, but now she has a little bit more of an importance, I think, in this book. But she's
not here right now, though.
And she's also very much fits the taste of Obi-Wan's crushes.
Yeah.
Blonde hair.
There's a funny line later in this book where he's like, nah, that's too much like a politician or royalty. And I'm like, oh, I would never do blank with blank.
I mean, to be fair, Obi-Wan always talks about how he doesn't trust politicians, though, because, like, in Attack of the Clones, he talks about it, too.
Despite the fact we spend so much time with them.
I mean, you can spend a lot of time with somebody and not trust them.
Yeah, it's true.
But yeah, so he storms out of the calf, kind of fuming.
This is bullshit.
And he kind of sneaks his way. We're gonna jump around, and I'm gonna kind of just focus on the main points. And he manages to sneak his way, and because he's like, I'm gonna go meditate.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to meditate, which I suck at because I can never calm myself. That's another issue Obi-Wan's having is he doesn't know if the Force is connected to him anymore.
Yeah.
Like he's starting to feel disconnected.
Like he can still use it, but it's not.
He doesn't feel as strong with it as he used to.
Yeah.
And so, like, he feels like there's sort of a block, is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
Like, there's something like, almost like a cork. It's like having a cork where there's still ability for stuff to get out, but not completely.
Yeah. I was going to say, it's more like you understand how to do something, but the ability to actually do it, something just isn't clicking in the right way.
Like it's not instinctive like it used to be.
Yeah.
And so...
You ever hear the story about the person who asked the millipede how they were able to walk with all those legs?
Yeah.
And then it immediately fucked it up because it thought about how it worked.
But, yeah, so now he's dealing with it. So he goes to the library, which used to be the old calf, right? No. What did the library used to be? No, he goes to the old banquet hall.
Yes.
Which
used
the current banquet hall, which used to be the library. Yeah. That's right. Which has some like renovation and type stuff. Where the banquet hall, because he goes to like a different banquet. There's like a big banquet hall that versus the kitchen that he was in earlier.
And he's like, so he's getting kind of bored and trying to figure out like a good place to meditate by himself. And for some reason, this prompts him to kind of like look at the walls and ceiling.
Yes. And he's also thinking about like the fact that this used to be a library, and he notices that there's like a pattern of stars on the ceiling. And
like most people who are curious, he's like, to hell with it.
And he starts to follow it because it's kind of like a constellation that he's following.
Yeah.
and it like leads him to this like back part of the renovation where there's like a little hole in the wall, like just enough for him to squeeze through. And he squeezes himself through, and he finds this like map on the wall that's like pointing to a planet and a specific set of star systems, and has the markings of CV.
No,
No,
they actually just straight up
is it just
wrote their whole
oh
names on.
oh yeah, Comac plus Orla.
Orla. Yep.
And so he's like, huh, who are these people? And so what does he do? He goes to a computer.
And he looks them up.
Yeah, he looks them up on the, because, you know, he goes to the actual library now.
Yeah.
And he's like kind of trying to be sneaky about it. Like,
He's like, his like internal monologue is like, I don't need to be sneaky about this, but I'm going to be anyway because I don't want their help right now.
yeah, and I don't want them asking why I'm looking into this.
Yeah. I'm like, you could have just like walked over there, man. I don't think you'd be in trouble for this.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you're looking up information on older Jedi. I don't think
they're gonna be like, no, you can't do that.
you can't know about these Jedi. But no, so he finds out who Orla is because he looks up Orla first.
And it's like a way seeker.
Interesting. That sounds a lot like what Qui-Gon would like.
Also, is that even allowed anymore?
I mean, he's like, I guess if it was allowed, Qui-Gon would be that.
Yeah.
And so he looks more into her and finds out that she gave one last report on a mission to a planet.
Yep.
And then no report afterwards of like what happened there.
Yep. Just completely silent. He's like, all right, I guess I'll go tell Qui-Gon about this.
And so, of course, the importance of these characters is that Comac Vitus and Orla Jareni are part of the High Republic series of books. We know what happened to Orla. Yeah. Meanwhile, Comac's still alive.
Yeah, Comac was like, listen, after me, I remember.
Yeah, that was
after our conversation where I said,
yeah, him and Kai
quote,
Santum.
We should kill any Nihil we come across. Maybe I should retire.
Yeah. Also, like, I felt Orla's death, and that was not helping the situation.
So, I'm going to walk away.
Yeah. So, of course, this immediately threw questions in my head of, like, well, how does this fit the story that we know? Because, like, how could she have gone to a planet and not reported that? Because, like, I immediately started wondering, how did she not report this? Did she go here and then immediately have to do... Which it turns out, yes, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, I think she did go there and
immediately had to go.
leave.
Immediately had to go to pick up people to go to Starlight.
Yeah.
Which is So, no. She had to immediately go to train. Sorry, go to train Elzar.
Yeah.
Which, because that was my thought process before, like the reveal. I was like, so because she didn't die here, because we know how she dies.
Yeah, it's not here.
So like, how does this work? Like, why didn't she report this while on her way to pick up Elzar?
I do think that she's right in visiting.
I think she made the right call, and a lot of good calls. Although I wish she did report the mission, but yes. Yeah. Other than that, she made a lot of good calls.
I do think that she's right in that visiting Lenara. Lenara's the name of the planet,
yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Would have been good for Elzar.
Yeah. Because it does, without giving away anything yet, it does bring a Jedi closer to the Force, because you start to understand the importance of balance in all things.
Mm-hmm.
Which is one of the lessons Obi-Wan learns while on this adventure. So he learns about Lenara, and he's like, okay, well, I'm gonna claim that the Force brought me to this.
Yep.
Because you know what? That's what I think happened.
It's not really clear.
It's not clear
true or not.
I by the end of the book, I think it is. I think the Force did send him this way, because I think the Force realized he needed the lesson that he ends up taking away.
And he's Qui-Gon and the Force are like fuck, how do we teach this kid this lesson? And Qui-Gon's like, I don't know, meditation, the Force is like, that's dumb.
I mean, but it's also not, because at the end of the day, meditation...
Right, but not in the right way.
At the end of the day, Obi-Wan does learn how to properly meditate, and that it doesn't mean that you have to just stand somewhere. You can do anything and be meditating. But yeah, so he brings this to Qui-Gon, and he's like, "Hey, the Force led me to this. We should investigate."
Qui-Gon's like,
"Okay, let me talk to the council about this. Let's meditate on it, and then we'll move from there."
And also, go and get a ship.
Oh, important thing.
Yes.
Before Obi-Wan found... No, it was after, because when he was leaving.
Yeah.
When he's leaving where he found the map and heading to the library...
Oh, this is where a statement I made earlier in the car is heard.
Well, it's after this.
Yeah.
But it's important because a certain voice is heard through the hallways, and Obi-Wan hides from it because he thinks that he's going to be in trouble for being in the banquet hall without anybody else there. And he lets it pass, and then we don't ever learn right away who it was.
Mm-hmm.
But Obi-Wan does hear that it's not a Jedi.
Yeah.
And so, after talking to Qui-Gon, they go to the banquet hall. He goes to the Padawan calf again, and he is hanging out with, like, telling them, "Hey, I'm gonna go on my first mission." And that's when Bola's like, "Oh yeah, did you hear that Master Dooku was here?"
And
which, of course, everybody keeps correcting as Count Dooku now because he's not a Jedi now. He's one of the Lost.
A brief side note for our listeners: the Lost are Jedi who chose to either walk away or just fucking disappeared one day.
Yep. Generally, it's the walking away, though.
Yeah.
And there's only been...
I think there's like 20?
Yeah, I think there's only been 20.
There's not a lot of them.
It's a key thing in a different book that's brought up, but...
It's not... being one of the Lost is not necessarily considered a bad thing.
Yeah, it's just not. It's just kind of like, oh, they chose a different path.
Yeah.
Although, like, some people do see it as bad, depending... It's a from person to person thing.
Yeah.
But generally, most of the wiser Jedi kind of are like, no, you just chose a different path, and you did what you needed to. It's not a statement on whether or not they're a good person or a bad person. Generally. Unfortunately, though, Bola doesn't see it that way.
Yeah.
Bola immediately starts heckling Obi-Wan about the idea that, oh, Qui-Gon, he must have been visiting his apprentice Qui-Gon, and they're talking about leaving together.
Yeah. And Obi-Wan, that did not help Obi-Wan's stress level.
No. Obi-Wan was ready to fight him over that.
Yeah, Obi-Wan's like, you want to
go?
Go?
But they don't.
Yeah.
Because Obi-Wan he lets himself think about it and be like, no, this ain't worth it.
Yeah. Bola's over here.
Really pushing those buttons.
Apprentice.
Yeah, like Master, like Apprentice. Yeah, he's really pushing those buttons.
Yeah. And like, Bola doesn't mean to be antagonistic.
Like, he's just messing around.
Yeah.
The Lost 20. So yes. There were only 20 by the time of the prequels. And if you include Dooku. I think Dooku makes it 20. Actually, he might be 21. Because I think it was 20 even before Dooku left. And there's a Master Trinus, which makes a lot of people wonder. And since the book that introduced it was written by Kevin Scott, a lot of people are wondering if Keeve Trinus from the High Republic comics is going to be one of the Lost.
She might.
Since Kevin Scott also writes the High Republic comic. But there's no evidence yet. It's just that Master Trinus is female and also shares the same last name, and so that's about it of evidence.
That's it for the evidence.
Yeah. Anyways.
So we'll wait and see.
Yeah. Anyways, but that's not important. I just want to bring it up because it's cool facts.
And like, all of this accumulates in Obi-Wan being like, you know what?
I'm just gonna dip.
I'm just gonna leave.
Yeah, because Qui-Gon does walk in, I think, and is like, "Hey, aren't masters allowed to still be in the, like, to still be able to talk to their Padawans even if they're in the Padawan dining area?" And so they talk, and he's like, "All right, I'm gonna see the council about this tomorrow, and we should be good to go." So he's like, "Go ahead and prep our ship and stuff. We should get it approved."
Yeah, they're gonna say no.
Qui-Gon's like, "I'll go anyways."
Yeah, I believe the exact words were, "The council is not all-knowing as much as they think they are. They don't need to know everything."
Yeah. Well, that's at the end, yeah. That's at the end of the book, yeah. So
Qui-Gon continues to do stuff under the level.
But it's not bad. But it's not
just what's needed.
Yeah, like it's not bad things. He's just following the will of the Force. Now, whether the will of the Force agrees with the Jedi tenets 100%, but at the same time, that's still like the most Jedi thing he could do is just follow the will of the Force, because that's what being a Jedi is supposed to mean. But
so they go.
So yeah, they go their separate ways. Obi-Wan's excited. He gets a ship ready. Meets with the person that's in charge of the Jedi ships, which is a Ortolan, the same race as Max Rebo, which confirms Shaylee's theory that they just have only legs, and continues the war of do they have just legs or arms and legs? Because canonically there are now two answers. Because we've seen Ortolans with arms and legs in the High Republic comics and in Darth Vader comic. But then in this book, they say they only have just their legs.
Do they lose their arms as they get older?
No. It says in the book that they only ever have their legs. Because in Padawan it says that.
They do have trunks, though.
Yeah, they have trunks, which is why they're able to still do stuff. Like they've learned to use their trunks to do a lot of their stuff, so that way they can always have an extra leg still. So like they can be using a trunk and a leg, and then still be standing on a leg. You know. Or if you're Max Rebo, you spread that Max Robussy and you just sit on your piano and play with your feet. Play jizz with your feet. That's for you, Shaylee. I don't know if you're watching, but that's for you.
God. Meba. That's
the name of
is also like, by the way,
here's a droid.
Here's the astromech droid that'll help you.
Yeah.
And so they go A6T8.
Yeah.
Or
A6. Aces. Yeah, Aces. I like Aces.
Yeah.
But basically they're like Meba asked Obi-Wan, "Have you ever flown before?" And Obi-Wan's like, "No, but I've done the simulations." And Meba's like, "You'll be fine. The droid will do most of the work.
Don't worry about it."
And so Obi-Wan the next day goes to get Qui-Gon and it's like, "Hey, it's time to go."
And he waits.
No answer.
And he waits.
And he's like, "Okay, I'm just gonna go to the ship. I'll be there. If you're, I assume you're just packing and meditating."
Yep.
And so Obi-Wan goes to the ship, and he waits like hours.
Yeah.
Like to the point where Aces has been like, I've recalculated our course like 20 times.
They're like, "Hey man, I've got like the route set. All we have to do is go."
Like I've made sure that this is the best route possible. Yeah. Like I've ran the number so many times now that there is no way we can fuck this up.
Yep. And Obi-Wan's like,
"You know what? Let's just go. Let's just go." You know what? Because he heard that Dooku's ship had already left.
Yeah.
Like, because he asked Meba about it, and Meba was like, "Oh yeah, they already left."
Yeah.
Like, but he asks if two people left, and Meba's like, "I don't know. I don't keep track of that. I just keep track of who shows up, not who leaves."
Yep. I was like, that. This is one of the things where Seth's still worrying about like Nihil and Dringir. I'm like, that sounds stupid. You should worry about that.
I mean, I would.
know it's been 200
I mean,
years.
I think it's more concerned about who shows up than who leaves, though, because usually if somebody leaves, that's not suspicious. Usually it's who's showing up that you want to keep an eye out for.
I still think that you should track which ship left.
Well, they knew which ship left, they just didn't know who was on it.
Yeah.
So they knew Dooku's ship left, which means more than likely Dooku left.
Yeah.
They just didn't know if anybody else was with him.
Yeah. I suppose that's fair.
And so Obi-Wan assumes the worst
Yeah.
because Bola gets into his head, and he's just like, well, you know what? If Qui-Gon abandoned me, fine, I'm going to go. What's the worst that can happen? The Jedi punish me? Oh, well.
Yeah.
And so him and Aces leave. And along the way to Lenara, they run into this beacon that's like asking for help. And they go there and they find nobody there, just the beacon.
They're like, I guess we'll take it with us.
Yeah, like
why not?
Like it's an old beacon, nobody's here. So we'll mess with it a little just to see if there's like something attached, like if we can like find like the original person that made it, because if you could probably do some tracking of who sent it out.
Yeah.
So they start working on that, which secretly activates a tracking mechanism on it, but they don't know that.
Yeah, they don't know that.
Because starting from here, starting from this point, we start getting these italicized.
Yeah.
Sort of, they're not flashbacks. They're like a side thing that's going on, but they're presented like a flashback.
Which is strange.
But I think it's so that way we don't see the twist that happens coming.
And I'll talk about it later.
Yeah, but basically, we can talk about, like, basically we are following this crew that is obviously also looking for the same planet that Obi-Wan's going to. That's basically all we get from the first few sections, is that this is a mining crew that's looking for the same planet, and apparently one of them knows people that are from the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it.
That's it. Meanwhile,
so after getting the tracking beacon, they get to an asteroid belt that Aces cannot see on their computer system. Like, it's obviously in front of them, but Aces is looking at the computer system because it's a droid, and they're just like, I don't see it.
There's nothing there. And Obi-Wan's like, what do you mean there's nothing there?
I can see it out the front window. And Aces is like, as far as I can see, you can drive safely.
Your car's in the middle of a lake, and it's like, you're fine.
It's like the GPS telling you, you can keep driving. You can go left. And it's like, no, I can't. There's no road here.
Yeah. So Obi-Wan's like, well, the planet's right there.
I
guess I can just...
But he's also, like, freaking out about it.
Yeah.
And he notices that the more he freaks out, the more the asteroid belt kind of reacts to that.
Yeah.
Like, it starts also freaking out.
It's not happy.
And so, like, it actually gets more difficult for him to go through.
Yes.
The more he's reacting to it. And he starts to recognize this, so he decides, hey, I'm going to calm down. Maybe if I calm down, it will calm down. Mm-hmm. And in fact, that is exactly what happens. He calms down and he goes through it, and everything works out.
Yep.
It almost, like, opens for him. Like, it kind of just goes, oh, cool, you're cool, come on in.
Okay, we're all good here.
So Obi-Wan makes it in, and crash lands the ship because the planet...
It didn't crash that bad.
No. But, like, basically the power starts to get fucky.
Yeah.
Because of the atmosphere.
Yep.
And so, it goes in for a rough landing, but not a crash, I guess. It's more of like...
Remember, it is his first time driving the ship.
And he manages to get it inside, safely inside, like, these trees and stuff. Yeah. And so he lands it there. And so he's like, all right, Asus, you got to repair the ship a bit, and I'm going to look around and see what I can find, because I did see, because before they crashed, he did see some, like, cities. Like,
Yeah.
so he saw some buildings.
And he's like, I'm going to go check that out.
And thankfully, where he crashed isn't too far from it.
Yeah.
So he starts to make his way towards them, and he sees that they're all abandoned.
He's like, and they're not destroyed.
No, they're just...
They would be in working condition.
Yeah, they're, like, in rough condition, but they're not in, like...
Yeah. They're not in, like, we have to scrap it.
They're not quite dilapidated, but they're, like...
They're almost there.
Yeah.
And he's like, I guess there's
He's
no
like,
one here.
Yeah, he's like, I guess nobody lives here anymore. I guess whoever did live here doesn't now. To be fair, it's been a few hundred years since Orla was here, so maybe Orla helped them out with whatever.
He also doesn't find any bodies or anything, so he's like, I guess I'll just leave.
And so as he's making his way back to the ship, somebody steals his lightsaber.
Yep, he gets robbed.
And they start to run off really fast.
Yeah. He's like,
And he starts chasing them, and he's
hey,
like,
give that back.
Yeah, he's like, how are you running so fast and jumping along trees and all this nonsense?
Like, why are you using
like force techniques?
wire fu from Crouching Tiger and Hidden Dragon?
Yeah, like he starts to recognize what he sees as force techniques.
Yeah.
And so he eventually catches up to them because they stopped running. Not because he caught up with them, but because they stopped running.
Yeah.
Because they caught up to their friend. And he's like, hey, give me that back. And that's when he realizes that he's surrounded by a bunch of other children.
I see.
And they start to talk a little bit, but not like introducing themselves talking. They're just like, hey, what does this do? What are you doing on our planet?
Yeah, they ask him a bunch of questions like all at once.
And
he
then
has to take his lightsaber back because
it's
he
his.
can do that.
Yeah, he uses the force to pull it from their hand.
And
they're like,
how'd you do that?
Yeah, how'd you do that? He's like, what do you mean, how'd I do that?
He's like,
you should be able to do that.
You can do that too, right?
From what I've seen.
And they go, no.
and so like then they stop talking because they're like, actually we should start running because
oh right,
the planet's after us.
Yeah.
And Obi-Wan's like, wait, what? But then a hole opens in the ground and a lot of creatures start chasing them. He's like, okay, time to run.
Yep.
And so he's running to keep up with them, and they're all like running to their base.
Yeah.
Eventually, they manage to outrun most of the stuff, including some rocks that they call like rock-like creatures. They call what was it?
There are avalanches.
Yeah, avalanches. Yeah.
And gobblers.
And gobblers, which are more like they're like a cat dog-like creature, but like they don't have like fur. They've got like a hard exterior.
Yeah.
But like the way they're described makes me think of like a loth cat.
I thought, and this is gonna sound really silly.
Like I kind of thought like these creatures, but like with a more hard exterior than a furry. Especially like this. Like I imagine them looking like that whenever I'll show the audience.
Yeah.
I imagine them looking like that whenever they're on the attack though, where they're like, I'm gonna eat you. Rawr. That. Like, but like with a more, because they're described with a more like rocky, like not rocky, but like more, what's the word I'm looking for? Scaly. Like they're described more scaly sounding rather than furry.
Yeah. That's not what I pictured them as.
But that's how they're described.
It's how they're described. I just thought of them
like until they mentioned scales, I was thinking of something closer to that, and then they were like, "Oh no, they've got scales," and I'm like, "Oh," and they have like their eyes kind of glow.
Yeah.
They glow purple, right? Yeah, because a lot of the plant life, and I'm sorry. Go ahead.
For some reason, I thought they were like So you know what Appa looks like from?
Oh yeah.
I thought they looked like that, but they were really small, like about the size of like a small
Like kind of
dog.
like around the size of that loft
Yeah.
cat.
And I just thought that they had like real big mouths for like no reason.
Yeah, but
I think it was the 6 legs that got me.
yeah,
That's probably what it was.
and so like I imagine more like a loft cat, but of course they got the purple eyes because it turns out a lot of the flora and fauna, there's a lot of purple in the life here on this planet.
And everything
Like
is
it's
strange.
like a fluorescent blue and purple.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so they get back to the base, which turns out to be this ship that these kids have been living on.
Yeah.
And this is where this book kind of becomes a mix between like not quite Treasure Planet, but it has some of that vibe of like these survivors on this planet mixed with like what did I describe it as I described it as something in my book review and I can't remember now. Cuz when I reviewed this I had the book on my forehead. What's in that story about the kids where they run their own?
I need you to. I admit I was worried this situation might get a
Lord of the Flies. That's what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking. Because it's very Lord of the Flies, but it doesn't quite cross all the lines that happen in Lord of the Flies. But you can tell there's a little bit of like Lord of the Flies adjacent.
Yeah, I'm like they're one bad day away from that.
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
And so here's where we finally get introduced to everybody that's like part of this kid nation.
Yeah.
Let me pull up the names. So we have Zybri, who is a changeling.
Yeah.
Similar to Zam Wessel, a Claudite,
Mm-hmm.
non-binary Claudite, and they are dating the leader of the group, Auge.
Oh, I thought
I pronounced it Auge, and then I listened to a little bit of the audiobook, and it's Auge. Yeah, I was thinking Auge. But yeah, when I listened to the audiobook, it's Auge.
I didn't listen to the audiobook, so it's Auge.
I think once again both are correct because in a galaxy with a bunch of but Auge or Auge is a Mickean, and they are the leader mainly just because they're the oldest.
Yeah.
And they're dating Zybri, and they have their brother Castle, who is kind of a dick.
Yeah, he kind of is. Fucking first thing he calls Obi-Wan, I think, is sky trash.
Yeah, because he came from the sky.
Yep.
And a Mickey, just so you know, is that tentacle alien race.
Okay, so it's same as Lula.
Yeah, same as Lula. Lula? No, not Lula.
Are you sure?
The other one. Lula's human.
Oh. Fuck.
I just dropped the name too. I was thinking of it and then I lost it.
You're right.
Zine.
Zine.
Yeah, it's the same race as Zine.
Lula.
And
Lula's different.
Yeah, and because they mentioned how Auge and Castle will play with their tentacles a lot. But Zybri has fun changing into them as well as messing with Obi-Wan by transforming into them as well.
Yeah. There are 3 Nautiloans.
Yeah, 3 Nautiloans. It's
and their names are Shush, Whistle, and Trill.
Yeah. And they are the ones suffering the most living here because
So, as it turns out, Nautiloans' lungs are not they're supposed to live in the water until they get old enough.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
the water here is not very hospitable.
Yeah, like the one source of water, there's like a lake that they talk about, but they can't go into it because the planet's attacking them.
Yep.
And so they have like a barrel of water.
Yep.
Because for some reason, the ship never gets attacked.
Yeah.
So they just live in the ship, and they have a barrel of water that they all kind of either crowd into or take turns using, like depending on the day. Like they could all fit into it, but it's a tight fit.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the youngest member, Amit, who is the one that I think Amit's the one that stole his lightsaber.
One of them did. I don't remember which one.
I can't remember if it was Amit or Auj.
I think it was Oj.
Okay. But Amit's like the youngest.
Yeah.
And so we learn a little bit about their society. They go out and to get resources. They talk about this thing called the harvest, which is like their big thing that they do.
Yeah.
And then Obi-Wan kind of learns about their society, but also like is not really welcomed.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we also have Meme. I forgot about Meme.
Yep.
Or Mem. Mem is Emerusian and is afraid of Obi-Wan.
Oh yeah. She doesn't like him.
Yeah. She does not want to ever be around him, like almost ever. Yeah. Emerusians are like that Scart. It's the same race as Margot from that works for Kira in War of the Bounty Hunters.
Okay.
Because she was. She also worked for Dryden Voss when he was in charge of the. But yeah.
And fortunately, these kids never go Lord of the Flies, and I was worried about that.
Yeah. I'm trying to see if there's anybody else we're missing. I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. Okay, we got everybody. Cool.
Yeah.
Or at least all the essential ones, because like they mentioned there's a couple others.
Yeah.
But I think these are the essential ones to know. And so after a little bit of talking about it, Obi-Wan's like, well, I guess the Force was leading me here. It sounds like you all have the Force somehow.
Yeah. He's like,
but y'all can't do some of the stuff. Like, y'all can't feel emotions. You can't call things with the Force.
Yeah. Okay.
But maybe the Force brought me here to help you all.
Mm-hmm.
And so he finally is like, they're finally like, hey, you should just park your ship above ours. And so he's like, oh, yeah, probably should.
Yeah, I could do that.
So he goes to get his ship. Aces is mad that because he spent the night there.
Yeah. Aces is like,
why didn't you call me? Why didn't you tell me you were okay?
Yeah.
Like, I also didn't know what to do without you telling me to do it.
Yeah.
Because Aces was like, I've looked into all these issues, but I didn't know whether or not to fix them without you saying, yeah, I should.
It's like, I need you to sign the consent forms before I can do anything.
Yeah. And so, basically, everyone's like, yes, please just fix those things, but we're going to fly the ship over to where these kids are.
And they go, all right.
So they fly over. First, actually, on his way,
yeah,
he runs into the gobblers, and they don't attack him.
Yeah.
In fact, they're very friendly and almost like they almost are like a cat because they like get on their back and like he pets it and everything, and like rubs their bellies and stuff. And he's like, "Huh, that's weird. Like yesterday, you were about to eat my face off. Now
we're cool."
And so then he brings the ship back.
Yeah.
And talks a little bit more to them about stuff. And they're like, oh, yeah, by the way, the harvest is coming up tomorrow, so we should get ready for that.
Yep.
And so once again, Obi-Wan is still kind of arguing with them because he's like, you should be trying to get off the world. And
why are you staying here?
And they're like, because our parents told us to, and we're living exactly how our parents did. And as you hear more and more about stuff that's going on, it gets weirder because, like, they talk about how their parents all died really young.
Yeah. And Obi-Wan's like,
that's not the usual.
That's not when your species usually dies.
Yeah, like usually some of y'all are even long-lived. Some cats like their bellies rubbed. That's not true. I've seen some cats that like that.
Listen, I don't know how y'all interact with animals, but for the most part, they're pretty friendly with me.
Yeah, I've seen cats that like their belly rubs.
Except,
Not all
well,
cats.
Honey's okay with me.
Honey, yeah, I think there was just that one incident.
Yeah.
And it's more of like if she doesn't see you coming. Like,
yeah.
Like if you scare her, then
Yeah.
she acts scared. But beyond that, it's been pretty.
Very much like this planet.
Yeah. Beyond that, she's been very. Yeah, they're all very friendly. They all like attention. Honey likes belly rubs for sure. Honey's the one that, like, if you stop, she'll go more.
Yeah. And so.
So yeah, so they're like,
none of this is.
Yeah, none of this is adding up, but like he feels like he's offending them the more he talks to them about it. And
so he's like, I'll just drop the subject.
But he's basically at this point been invited to live with them.
Yeah, and they're like,
you could stay here if you want, because it sounds like you weren't happy at this Jedi temple. And Obi-Wan considers it.
And I did think about this, like, during the story. I think it is good for him to finally get out of the temple.
Yeah.
Because I think, like, I understand.
He was comparing himself too much to everybody else.
Yeah. Also, I think sometimes things get a little too structured in places like the temple. Because let's face it, the Jedi can be very dogmatic at times.
Yeah.
So now Obi-Wan is, well, free to do as he pleases.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost the Kai Santum test.
Yeah.
Like when Yoda let Kai just run off.
Yeah. Sometimes you just need to step away from things for a little bit to see if that's what you still want to do.
Yep. And, sorry, I was wrong. This is 2 nights before the harvest. Because this night something happens, and then the next night is when they get regular rest and the harvest happens.
Yeah.
So 2 nights before the harvest happens. And so this night, they go to bed, except they get woken up because Trill, the oldest of no.
The Notlins can't really wander off too far.
No, but somebody, I was going to say, they notice.
Yeah.
It's Trill who notices that Amit's missing.
Yeah, and they go...
Because Trill is basically the one they put in charge of watching the kids, the youngest of the kids, most of the time. And so Trill was like, "Hey, Amit's not in bed. What's going on? We should all be in bed." And so, Obi-Wan,
Castle.
Auge, and Castle, yeah, they all go out and they're like, so they all talk about they call the Force the power, and they talk about it like. They're talking about, hey, I've got some remaining power left. I should go out, which also confuses Obi-Wan.
Obi-Wan's like,
so do you need sleep? Can you only use the Force so much before you need to rest?
And he's like, but wait, that's not how the Force works.
I mean, I guess, yeah, you can exert yourself, but, like, you can't run out of it.
Consume the Force.
So.
Like, it'll.
Yeah.
You can, like previously said, strain yourself, but you don't really strain the Force.
Yeah. And so they all go out to look, and Obi-Wan manages to find Amit up in a tree with gobblers surrounding it. And Obi-Wan actually recognizes one of the gobblers.
He's like, hey.
Yeah, you were my buddy earlier.
My friend from earlier. What's going on? And the gobbler's like, I'll fuck you up.
Yeah, because Obi-Wan climbs up the tree and helps Amit. And manages and gets Auge and Castle over there and hands Amit off to them. And then gets tackled to the ground by these creatures. And he's like, we were just friends earlier. What the fuck?
And it's, so they are like, run for it.
Yeah, they run for it. So they manage to get away. And they get back to the place and they're like, you can't be doing that, Amit. You can't just run off at night.
Yeah, I'm like, this is actually a deserved chew out from an older person to a younger one.
Yeah. Like, you know the planet's trying to kill you. Why are you running off by yourself in the middle of the night?
Yep.
And I forget the excuse Amit said. That I think they said they were trying to get help with getting the harvest ready, I think. Something like that. And they were like, well, you're more help by just staying here, so don't do that. So... yeah, so the night goes by, and then they're like, all right, time to get ready the next day for once again, they're talking about the harvest. really most of what they talk about is the harvest and their society and how it works.
Yeah.
And Castle thinks that Obi-Wan is hitting on his sister at certain points.
Yeah.
And Castle's like, no, she's in love with, Zybri and them have been like together for so long at this point that you don't have a chance. And Obi-Wan's like, no, I wasn't.
No. I'm not allowed to do that. Long story short.
And this is, I think it's the next day when we get it, but we can talk about it now.
Yeah.
We get a little bit of what I dubbed Curious Wan Kenobi.
Yeah.
Where Castle hits on Obi-Wan.
Yeah, and Obi-Wan's like, I don't know what to do with this.
Because Castle's like, because they talk.
Like, I don't dislike it.
Because Castle talks about, hey, you want to practice kissing? You're not quite my type, but we could. and Obi-Wan's like, I don't know if I should be. I don't know if I should take that as a compliment or. Like, Obi-Wan's like, you're not quite my type either, but I wouldn't be against it either. And then he starts singing about how, like, technically everybody there is kind of his type and how, like, he wouldn't mind, like, kissing all of them.
Yeah. And I was like, wait a minute, that'd be weird.
And even he starts to think that. He's like, I don't know. So we get a little bit of Obi-Wan being a little bit bi-curious. But at the same time, this is like, because a lot of people were up in arms about that and being like, this ruins Obi-Wan. No, it doesn't.
Nah.
This is a kid who's at that age where, yeah, he's going to start thinking about these stuff.
Yeah.
Like, these are the type of things that kids his age start to think about. He's 16. He's past puberty. Or at the least still experiencing some of the effects of it, depending on when he started puberty. I mean, his hormones are probably at whatever God knows levels. And now he's away from the strict Jedi temple, which is like, they don't disallow romantic entanglements, because he even thinks about how the fact that he had a chance with Siri, but he just didn't take it. Yeah. And so, like, it's just because of how Obi-Wan is that he's like, he has to be by the book.
I have to follow the rules.
And so, like, this is kind of his first time being away from all that, where he's like, you know what, I kind of regret not doing some of those things to a degree when I had the chance. Yeah. Would I do them now, though? Probably not. And so, like, this is the perfect time and age for him to be thinking about these things. Yeah. Like, you discover yourself during this time. This is the time where you figure out who you are as a person and who you're into generally. Now, of course, you could always figure it out later on in life. There is no point in life where you can't figure that out. Like, he could be in his 20s and still be like, oh, yeah, I'm actually bisexual. But generally, this is about the age where you start to think about those things. And so to be like, oh, Obi-Wan can't be bi-curious. Why not? Especially when Alec Guinness, the original Obi-Wan, was I think he was bisexual. I think that it's either, trying to figure out who he likes. Yeah. Like, that's just, that's just part of life. You figure out who you like. You figure out what you're into. I mean, that's also about the age where, you do, like, practice kissing with people where you're like, that maybe you're not into completely, like, because I've had the first kiss be the practice, where the first kiss is the practice kiss with somebody that you're like, oh, you're kind of cute. I don't know if I date you, but we both aren't dating anybody. So let's, you know what I mean? Like, that's normal. So, like, I get that. So it makes sense. And, like, at the end of the day, he still chooses to be the Obi-Wan we know. Like, it's not like he's going out kissing all these people. Like, and even if he did, that's fine too, as long as at the end of the day, he's still the Obi-Wan we know, which he is. That's like saying him being in love with Satine ruins him. It doesn't. Because it'd be the same logic, because him being in love with Satine technically goes against him being the perfect but at the end of the day, he's still the perfect Jedi, because he still chooses not to follow those instincts, even though he's had so many chances to follow those instincts.
in regards to Obi-Wan, there is, and Satine, I do think that that is a good thing. However, the most like heartbreaking line in that from Clone Wars, I think, is if you had asked, I would have left the order.
Yeah. And I think because there's a lot of time because you can leave the order at any time.
Yeah.
You could have gone full Jedi Master and decide to leave like Dooku did. Because we just talked about the Lost. I mean, there are people who just leave and aren't counted as the Lost. Like, it's just something because the Jedi aren't. Despite how many fans try to convince you of it, the Jedi are not a cult. They don't kidnap children because they always get permission from the parents. It's always consensual. And they never take a kid without saying, hey. And usually it is for the best that they take these kids because most of the time these parents wouldn't know how to handle a kid with force powers, you know? That's why most of these parents are willing to give their... Because they see a better life for their kid if they give them to the Jedi. They aren't a cult because if they were a cult, they wouldn't allow you to leave at any time. Like, Anakin had a choice to leave. Yeah, like a lot of people try to convince you that there's a lot of fans that misconstrue how the Jedi work, and they're not a cult. And honestly, to a degree, neither is the Sith. The Sith are obviously bad, but they're not a cult either. But the Jedi definitely aren't a cult because the being a part of a cult implies that you have no choice to be there. You're not allowed to leave. And that you have to follow their rules one for one. If that was true, Qui-Gon would have been out day one.
Yeah.
Like, if that was true, Anakin would have been gone day one. Like, in fact, they didn't want Anakin. Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon ignored the Jedi's orders on that.
Yeah.
A cult wouldn't allow that. So, like, and Anakin had an opportunity to leave, too, when he was younger. So, like, he just chose to stay. So, there's always a choice with the Jedi. And so that's why Obi-Wan is even considering it now. He's like, do I stay or do I go? Bum, 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 bum. And so that...
You were coming dangerously close to copyright there.
Oh, yeah, because I sounded so close to the song.
Nope, just the words, man. You were one off.
But yeah, like, so Obi-Wan's at that point where
Yeah.
he's trying to decide. Because
Do I even want to go back?
do I want to go back? Am I going to be punished? Is Qui-Gon going to be there?
Yeah.
And so,
And
like,
it's like, are they going to kick me out? I'm not sure.
and if they do, does that mean it was the will of the Force that I went on this and go back and they kicked me out? Or
Yeah.
because he starts to once again wonder about his connection to the Force.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it's actually, I think it's tonight that he meditates and everything goes actually well.
Yeah.
Because he actually does manage to get into a meditative state. And he has this weird vision, kind of, sort of.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what it means.
Yeah.
He's just like,
It
he basically
starts
gives...
to go out a little bit too far in his like opinion, and he's like, nope.
Yeah. Because basically he starts to sense that something is... Like, he was already like, this is weird.
Yeah.
But now he's like, something is really going on with this planet. I don't know what it
Something
is.
Isn't right.
Like, he starts to feel the life of the planet. Like, he connects to the planet during this meditation. And he's like, I don't know what that is. There's something really dark, but nope.
Yep. He'll meditate again.
Yeah.
And get a much
well,
greater understanding.
he's actually about to figure it out without meditation pretty soon.
The next day.
The harvest, which is actually when the kiss scene happens, because it's as they're getting ready to leave, because everybody's giving their goodbyes to, like, certain people. And yeah. So the people that go on the trip are Ayuj, Castle, Zybri, and Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
It's just the four of them. And they say it's going to be about half a day's walk to get to where they're going.
And Obi-Wan's like,
It's like, we could just take the ship.
I can fly you guys there.
I could just fly you. And they're like, okay, I guess.
And they're like, all right, yeah.
I mean, sure. And so they fly there, avoiding all the dangers of the planet. And he lands on top of this kind of this peak.
Yeah.
Almost a plateau.
Mm-hmm.
And so he lands on this plateau that's overlooking this like massive hole.
Yep.
It's almost like, and it's like described as like this like just charred area that looks like it's been burnt to a crisp. And
there's like this little
and
thing
Obi-Wan
off to the side.
And Obi-Wan really senses this dark side energy now. He's like there is so, like the closer they get to this pit, the more he's like, this is bad. And he's like, you guys seriously can't feel this? And they're like, no.
No.
He's like, what? How do you have the Force and not feel this? This is so powerful.
Yeah. And he's like, oh, what's up with that little area over there? And I just like, don't go there.
Yeah, we're told. Our parents said not to go through the door, so we don't go through the door.
And Obi-Wan's like, well, my parents weren't from here, so I'm gonna go through that door.
And also, it's probably an easier way to get down.
Yeah.
Whereas
and everyone else is like, cool, we'll just use the normal way.
Yeah, we'll just climb.
Yep.
And so he goes through the door, and it turns out there might have been a reason why the parents said not to go through here.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tomb.
Yep.
With some paintings on the wall.
Yeah, and
like,
like,
and it's almost it's a mural, like almost like cave paintings that tell the story of the people that lived here. And he kind of figures out the story from context clues.
Yeah.
And so, to put it quickly of what he discovers, turns out there was another set of people that lived here before the parents of our current kids.
Mm-hmm.
And they all died out after a ship crash landed into the hole. It crash landed on the planet and created the hole. And apparently we're sacrificing something. And, like, he can't figure out exactly what happened. But apparently, like, they were farming and sacrificing something. And then they all just died.
Yep.
That's basically what he finds out.
And
basically, this is the tomb of everyone who died.
Yep. While he's looking, he does find...
He finds, like, this hidden hole in the wall.
Yeah, and he's like, hey,
I should reach into there.
I know what made that kind of...
Yeah,
because that's a lightsaber hole.
Yep. So he reaches in.
Stick my hand in that.
All I could think of, and I thought about it even more on the reread.
Yeah.
All I could think of is that scene from National Treasure 2, where Nick Cage sticks his hand into the hole out in Mount Rushmore. Because I just rewatched that movie too, so on the reread I was definitely thinking about it, and it's just like, oh, I'm just kidding. And so he sticks his hand in the hole, and it turns out that there's actually a data card in here.
It's like, this is a big ass data card.
Yeah, because it's older technology.
Yeah.
So it's a data card, and he's like, oh, there's probably a recording on here that tells me everything that happened here. Thank you, Orla, for leaving this.
I should give this to A6.
And now he kind of feels more confident about being on this mission because he's like, the Force definitely led me to this, so this is good.
Yep.
And now I can tell my friends what's been going on here, and maybe that will convince them that something is up.
Mm-hmm.
And so he goes out and he finds that the parents must have blocked off the tomb.
Yeah.
Because the other exit, the one that leads to the ground level, has been like sealed.
Yeah.
And so he has to like open his way through.
He's like, all right.
So he unseals it, goes through, and before he can say anything of what he found, they're immediately like, all right, time to go for the harvest. And they like push him in.
They're like, all right, come on, time to go. Did you have fun exploring? Good.
They're like, all right, time to go in.
He's like, wait, we should probably...
And it's too late. Like, one of them, like, Zybri's already jumped... No, Castle's already jumped in. And Zybri... No.
Zabria's already jumped in.
Zybri jumps in. Castle is the one who pushes him in. Yeah. Zabri and Ayuj are the ones who jumped in. Castle's like, get in. and Castle follows him. And so, Obi-Wan considers using his lightsaber as a flashlight because it's just so dark in there. But he's like, that's not fair to them because I don't know where they're at.
Yeah.
And also, like, that what if they can't see? Eventually, though, they find this natural light from the fluorescent blue and purple that we've been talking about that's throughout this entire planet.
Yeah.
Turns out we figure out what that is here. Turns out the harvest are these weird orb things that are purple and blue, and the other kids start eating them.
Yeah.
And then they start gathering a bunch of them. And the more they're gathering it, Obi-Wan hears the planet screaming.
According to Obi-Wan, the planet is screaming and is not happy.
Like, in pain.
Yeah. And he's trying to tell them to stop, but they're not going to stop.
Yeah. And, in fact, they drag Obi-Wan out with them as they're, like, running away. Like, Castle's yelling at him, like, why aren't you gathering anything? We brought you down here. What are you crying about? And so, yeah, they drag him out, and they start to make their way back. And everything starts attacking them. Like, the wildlife is not happy.
The sky.
There's a storm that starts chasing them.
Yeah.
And they get away mostly until Obi-Wan gets tackled by a bunch of gobblers, and the storm is getting close, and, like, they pretty much almost leave him to die, but then Zybri turns around and saves him.
Yeah.
Because Zybri's the only one that likes him at this point. And so they're like, I'm not going to leave you to die. Come on.
Yep. I'm going to go.
And so at this point, Obi-Wan has already had Aces take the ship and leave, because Obi-Wan was already like, something might happen.
That storm looks bad.
Yeah, because they saw the storm on their way in. And so Obi-Wan already had Aces leave, so Aces is already like back at the main fort.
Safe.
Yeah. So they get there, and that's when, like, everything goes, like, Obi-Wan starts to yell at them, but before, like, a true argument can happen, everybody kind of just says, fuck it, we're going to bed. We're not going to deal with this today.
Yeah, Obi-Wan's like, what the hell are you doing?
And so he gives Aces the data card. Aces says, I can't figure it out yet, but I could probably, like, if you give me a day or so, I can look into it.
A day or two.
And so Obi-Wan gives Aces a day or two, explains to Zybri what's going on, and Zybri's like, well, you're going to need some better evidence for this if they're going to listen to you.
Yeah.
And so
they're not going to listen to Sky Trash like you.
Like, I'm willing to listen to you, but nobody's going to believe you.
No one else will believe you.
And so they go out, and they're like, all right, day 2 of trying to get the harvest that Obi-Wan fucked up, when a ship crash lands. Another ship lands. It didn't crash. 2 ships, actually, survive. 2 ships land, and they're big mining rigs.
Only one.
Oh, one. That's right. The other 2 that's right. The other 2 get destroyed. I thought only one of them got just wrecked.
Nope, 2 of them.
Oh, okay. But yeah, so the ship lands, and it turns out that the guy who's been in charge of this, that we kind of knew about, who was like, I know some people, Logrebe, is actually the uncle of Ayuj and Castle.
Yep. I was like, oh.
And that's the big plot twist for that.
That's okay, I guess.
Because this is when Obi-Wan managed. This happens when Obi-Wan managed to convince them to go to the tomb with him. Because he's like, hey, I want to show you the tomb because I have evidence. I can show you all the tomb. They look at the tomb and they're like, I don't believe you. This isn't impressive enough for me to believe.
Yeah.
Like, they could have died from anything.
And he's like, also, the wildlife didn't start attacking me until I started
hanging out with you guys. But they're like, nah. So that's when they leave. They go back to the top exit because they don't want to go down the bottom exit. And they go out the top exit where they see the ship land. And then they're like, oh, it's our Uncle Logrebe.
Yep.
And Logrebe is sketchy to Obi-Wan.
Mm-hmm.
And Logrebe is like, hey, I came here to rescue you. Of course. You guys go ahead, get the rest of the kids packed, and then I'll come and get y'all.
Mm-hmm.
Logrebe is not going to come get them.
Nope, no, he's not.
Oh.
I'm like, I'm like, I know where this is going. I've seen this before.
Also, like, the flashbacks basically told us what he actually wanted.
Yeah. I'm also getting tired of this
So
setup.
Logreeb's actual plan is to just straight up take every single piece of the power from the planet.
Yes.
Like, he's just going to mine it dry. That is his plan.
Yep.
He wants to mine it dry and then consume the power, take it with him, and then get revenge on the people. Because it turns out that, and it's described earlier in the book, but basically when the rest of the kids who are living here were like babies,
Yeah.
their parents and the other members of the people that were on this planet got into basically a civil war over staying here.
Yeah.
And using the power, and our main character's parents wanted to stay here and use the power, while the other people were like, no, it's wrong, we shouldn't, and they tried to drag everybody off of Lenara. That didn't go well.
Logreeb is one of the ones who got dragged off.
Yes, and so Logreeb plans to get revenge on the people who dragged him off by taking the power back with him and using it to basically kill everybody that dragged him off. And also, as an extra victory for him, he's going to leave the kids stranded here with none of the power because fuck them, because he thinks that they don't deserve to have it, because why should they get to have it while he couldn't all these years?
Yeah.
Why do they and their parents get to have it while he suffered without it?
Yeah, on that sort of like...
Meanwhile, Obi-Wan is starting to figure that out, and he's also thinking, more than likely, if you take the power off the planet, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Like, the further you take the power away from the source, sort of deal.
Yep.
And this is his thoughts are basically confirmed when he meets a miner that's part of the crew by the name of Dexter Jetster.
Yeah.
Dexter! So this is how Obi-Wan and Dexter meet.
Yep. And Dexter's like, man, this is the shadiest fucking job I have ever had to take.
Like, he's like, yeah, I'm a miner for hire, but like, even I've never taken a job this shady.
This is a skeleton crew.
Also, I've never seen a boss that's willing to lose this many people.
Yeah. I don't like any of this.
Because, like, if you were truly trying to do a good mining operation, you would want as many mining rig ships as possible. So to be willing to lose 2 out of 3...
He's like, I don't trust any of the stuff going on here. You should be careful, man.
And in fact, Obi-Wan is careful because it turns out that night, Logreeb told somebody to go plant a bomb on his ship.
And Obi-Wan's like inspecting the ship, like, hey, did you see anything weird, A6?
Yeah, because Aces is like, yeah, I didn't see anything weird, but it does feel like there's something on the ship that shouldn't be there. And so, like, Obi-Wan, like, starts rubbing the underside of the ship, and he feels the mound of the detonator of the bomb. Turns out, so this is not really a bomb. It's supposed to be a mining device that's supposed to... It measures the...
Essentially, it's a mining charge.
Yeah, it's a mining charge, but it's specifically set to where it'll detonate at certain levels.
Yeah.
So, like, you basically set it and go, all right, this is 0. And when it hits negative whatever of feet in the ground, go off. Except this time they set it to go in the atmosphere, so up. So once Obi-Wan, because basically Obi-Wan said he was going to leave the next day. So they set it to be like, oh, well, we don't want him contacting the other Jedi because Logreeb recognized the Jedi. Because Logreeb has had time off of Lenara to recognize the galaxy, unlike the kids who have no idea what a Jedi is. And so he's like, where's your master? It's kind of weird that you don't have your master with you and all that. And so, and of course, sowing the seeds of doubt among the kids because he's like, I think this kid is lying to y'all because he should be with his master if he's really a Jedi. And so, obviously, they don't want him reporting to the masters, so they plant the charge to go off once he reaches a certain height in the atmosphere. So basically, Obi-Wan's going to fly away, and then he'll blow up in a way that won't create suspicion with the kids.
That is the plan that did not work.
Yes, because Obi-Wan found it and also saw the shadow of the person who planted it.
And he's like, well, I know it's not Dexter because Dexter has 6 arms. That Shadow did not have.
Yeah, he's like, that wasn't Dex, so I know I can trust him.
Sorry, 4 arms.
Yeah, so I know I can trust Dex.
Yeah.
And so he brings this evidence to Zybri, and Zybri's like, oh, that's kind of fucked up. Okay, yeah.
Also, why did you bring it?
Why would you bring it if... And he's like, oh, don't worry, it's not going to go off, as he's, like, carrying it.
Yeah.
He's like, it's set to not go off, I think.
I think.
Aces looked into it to the best of their ability.
I'm not sure it won't go off, but it won't go off right now.
Yeah. By this...
And she makes the best statement, Zabri here. And she's like, fucking throw it off the side of a cliff. Why do you have it in your hand?
He's like, well, I need evidence. Speaking of evidence, Aces manages to get the recording to work. Unfortunately, Castle has already left.
Yeah. They watched the recording, and Orla's like, yeah, this plant is a closed circuit.
Basically, and it basically confirms that, yes, if Logreeb takes the power off the planet, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
It also confirms that, yes, the planet's only attacking them because they keep taking the power.
Yeah.
Because everything feeds off each other. And in fact, if the settlers had worked with the planet would have given them the power anyways, and they would have naturally been cared for by the planet.
But because they didn't do that, everything got fucky.
Yeah. Ayuj, of course, immediately goes into denial and anger mode.
Yeah.
Like, basically going like, why would our parents do this to us? There's no reason our parents would lie to us. So I'm not going to believe this, whoever this Jedi is.
Obi-Wan, at this point, is too tired to argue.
And he's just like, fuck it, I'm going to just go. I'm going to prove myself innocent. I'm going to go to Logreeb and deal with this. He doesn't tell Ayuj any of this. And in fact, only tells Zybri, who's like, I told you they wouldn't listen.
Yeah, and so this sparks an argument between Zabri and Oz.
Yeah, because Zabri agrees with Obi-Wan, and like, this almost causes a breakup between Ayuj and Zybri.
Yeah. And Shush
also agrees with...
Yeah.
But Shush has been agreeing for a while, because Shush and Obi-Wan have been planning of either way, they want to leave.
Either way, Shush, Whistle, and Trill need to leave because it is physically painful for Nautilins to breathe air.
Like, they've been discussing this for a while, and Obi-Wan was like... Obi-Wan has been more of like, hey, it's going to be your choice at the end of the day. I'm not going to take you unless you absolutely want to. If we can solve a way for you to live here, great.
Great. But if we can't...
Then I'll take you.
Then I'll take you guys to, like, literally anywhere else.
Yeah.
That has water.
Yeah. And so... Zybri follow after this argument, and where kind of Ayuj gets a vote of no confidence.
Yeah.
Obi-Wan leaves to go get proof that Logreeb set the bomb. Because right now, the big thing is that Ayuj doesn't believe that Logreeb set the bomb.
Yeah.
Because why would he do that, is basically the logic. And, meanwhile, Obi-Wan and Zybri are kind of like, he said he would bring ships by now to pick us up. That hasn't happened.
Yep.
So Obi-Wan goes off, but he tells Aces that either way, Aces needs to fly away the next morning to make it look like he's gone. Because basically he wants Logreeb to not suspect that he's still on the planet.
Yeah. This plan does not work.
No.
Due to events that we will now discuss.
Yes. So Obi-Wan leaves. Zybri follows.
Yep.
And is like, well, I'm not keeping my eye off of you because if Logreeb is trying to kill you, you need somebody there. So they managed to get there where they managed to get to Logreeb's ship, where they see that the creatures aren't attacking the ship because they are holding one of the creatures hostage as collateral. Obi-Wan and Zybri get past. Zybri disguises herself as Logreeb and basically talks to the guard that's watching the creature.
While Obi-Wan just kind of sneaks behind him.
Yeah, and they basically get past the other creatures by calming, just like with the asteroid belt. Because it turns out that's the secret.
Yep.
Stop taking the power and just calm down.
Yep. And while they're in
Which
there,
I think this is actually when Obi-Wan really gets the best meditation moment.
yes.
Because this is when he's like, oh, I understand meditation now.
I'll say...
Because he's meditating while doing this, and he's like, oh, this is what Qui-Gon was trying to teach me.
No, I think it happens...
It's starting now.
A little bit before...
No, it's during this when he's trying to get past the creatures. Because he's walking and he becomes...
No, because there's another scene where he reaches...
There's a few moments where he has meditation.
Real reach. This is
Yeah.
the first time he ever sees the planet.
But
How interconnected it is. It happens a little bit before this when he finally makes up his mind about his decision.
oh yeah.
Hodge does see that, but she still doesn't believe it.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so Obi-Wan and Zybri basically confirmed that yes, Logreeb is definitely in charge here. This is not, because that was another question where Zybri was like, maybe Logreeb is just is prisoner from these people, but the fact that the guard didn't attack Logreeb when Zybri was disguised as them is enough sign that Logreeb is part of this.
Mm-hmm.
They do sneak into the ship where they run into Dex, who confirms,
Dex is like, why do you have that?
Dex confirms that, that's one of ours, and that's exactly how that works. I'm going to disarm it now.
Yeah.
You should run off right now.
Yeah.
And so, because in fact an alarm is going off. And so they're like, time to get out of here.
Yep.
By this point, it's gone from night to daytime.
Yeah.
And they are running off. Aces has flown the ship away. Of course, Obi-Wan told Aces to come back around in a certain pattern.
Yeah.
But Aces is still gone the ship is gone at this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And so they get to this clearing where Ayuj has caught up to them and sees Obi-Wan and the gobblers.
Yeah.
And they're calm and almost friendly. And this is when Ayuj finally accepts that Obi-Wan's right. And sorry, Castle didn't run away yet. Castle saw the hollow, and he didn't believe it either.
Yeah.
But he is gone now.
Yeah, he is now leaving.
Because Ayuj agrees with Obi-Wan, and they go to find Castle, who's not there, because they go back to the ship and are like, hey, we should give up our power. But Castle's not there to give up his share.
Yeah.
So they're like, okay, well, we're going to give up our share, and then we're going to go to Logreeb's ship, which is likely where Castle went.
Mm-hmm.
So
Obi-Wan has fortunately finally come to the understanding of how using the Force while meditating works.
Yeah.
And what the problem was.
Yep.
The problem is he was trying to grasp it rather than letting it flow.
Yeah. And so so they all give up their power.
Yeah.
Because basically what they do is they feed it to the plants that are in front of them. Because basically they see that the plants open up to them, and Ayuj puts theirs into the plant, and it swallows it, and it takes it back, and that's when the creatures start kind of being nicer to Ayuj.
Yeah.
And so everybody else is like, okay, so that's what we got to do, and they do that. Then they're like, okay, we need to go find Castle so he can do the same, and we can have a good life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so about that, Uncle Logreeb has now taken Castle hostage.
Yep.
And is pointing a gun at him, and is basically like, hey, I'm going to take all the power, and then you guys are staying, or else I shoot my own nephew because I don't care.
Yep. Fuck them kids.
Obi-Wan, give me your lightsaber, go in that cage.
Obi-Wan's like,
well, I guess I have to.
yeah, fuck.
And so basically this big fight ensues where Dex and the rest of the crew of the mining ship basically pull a mutiny on him.
Yeah, they're like,
we didn't sign up for this.
yeah,
We didn't.
this is a bit worth. This is not worth the money we were paid.
You've gotten to the point where you're willing to kill kids. This is not where we were.
Yeah.
We didn't sign up to kill kids. And so basically this big fight ensues, and it leads basically back to the hole
Mm-hmm.
where Castle goes into the hole and starts like eating as much power as.
Castle.
Or sorry, not Castle.
It's
Sorry,
Logrebe.
Logrebe drags Castle with him though, as a prisoner still, and Logrebe is eating all the power that he can. Like I'm just imagining like. There's certain monsters I'm thinking of from like villains from anime that do that type of thing where they just.
I was like, oh, I see what Logrebe is.
He's going like
You're
anime.
a Resident Evil villain is what you are.
He's gone like anime Resident Evil villain.
I'm like,
because they talk about how like this much power is starting to deform his body.
yeah,
You
I'm
know?
like, oh, I see. This was a Resident Evil story disguised as Star Wars.
And so like he starts to get affected by this, and
Yeah.
he's like glowing, and like tentacles are shooting out of his body, and so Obi-Wan is not winning this fight.
Yeah.
It's not going well. And so Ayuj
the-
decides, you know what? There's only one way to do this. I'm gonna have to sacrifice myself and sacrifice the treaty that I've made with the planet.
Yeah.
And so Ayuj takes some of the power to fight
Yep.
fight their uncle. And so eventually their uncle, they both die. It doesn't go well.
No, Oj gets hurt.
Oh, yeah, Oj
but
gets
she
hurt.
Doesn't die.
That's right. But Logrebe,
Logrebe dies.
he blows up essentially. He Resident Evil explodes from having too much overpower. Because, like, they're trying to warn him. They're like, hey, you can't have this much power. You're going to kill yourself doing this. And he's like, but the more I eat it, the more I'll regenerate. And it's like, that's not how that works.
So, the start of this fight is Logrebe is going to shoot Obi-Wan with a blaster. That gets deflected back into him, and that kicks stage 2 of the fight off.
Yeah.
At which point he's just like, fuck it, I'll just throw rocks.
Yeah, and so while that's going on, the planet is also attacking him.
Yeah.
And in fact, that's part of how he dies. Like the planet seals itself over
Yeah.
him.
Like Obi-Wan hits him with a pebble, and the strain from keeping big boulder to throw,
Yeah.
plus pebble,
Plus having too much power that his body can't deal with that.
equals one dead Logrebe.
Yeah.
No, but until well done.
Yeah. Trying to remember what happens at I think they agree to.
Dex sets up the Lenaran children.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Like they
with, like,
some way to get off.
places
Yeah.
where they can live.
So yeah, so they all agree to leave, which is good. Obi-Wan's like, all right, I should probably turn myself into the Jedi, and so a happy ending for everybody on Lenara, and he's now got a new friend in Dex, who's at this point like, anytime you need help, just call on me.
Yep.
And so so Obi-Wan goes back, and strangely enough, nobody's there to greet him.
And
He's like, did nobody notice I was gone?
That almost feels worse.
Which was a thought that he had, actually, at one point. He was like, is it worse if nobody misses me?
Yeah.
And so he gets there, and then eventually he goes over to where he sees Qui-Gon, and Qui-Gon's like, so how was it?
So how was your trip?
And he's like, am I not in trouble?
Am I not in trouble? And he goes, no.
Nope, the Jedi Council doesn't know. They don't need to know. Did you learn your lesson? Yep. All right, that's all that matters.
Good. It's like, hey, did you do this on purpose?
And he kind of just shrugs it off.
That's not the answer he gives.
No.
He goes, no, I just overslept.
Oh, yeah. I think Qui-Gon is being snarky. I think he did mean for that. I think he did.
You mean, did I intend for my Padawan to go on a journey to a strange planet and come back with a deeper understanding of the Force?
Who's to say?
Who knows? Anyhow.
But yeah, so that's Padawan. It ends there. It ends there, which is great. And so, like, and that does still leave open the relationship for Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan to be dealt with, because they still aren't.
They haven't resolved anything.
Which means it doesn't break anything that's in Master and Apprentice.
Yeah.
Because that's what Master and Apprentice is about. So, whereas when you first hear, oh, they're doing a book that's before Master and Apprentice, and it's about Obi-Wan going on his first mission, everybody assumed, oh, with Qui-Gon.
No.
Nope, just his first mission. Went by himself. Also, we still need a Mandalore story now. We need the Mandalorian Civil War, so we can see Satine and Obi-Wan meet for the first time. Because now we've got Dex and Obi-Wan meeting for the first time. We need... So what do you think? How was this book?
I liked it. However, am...
I think it was short. It was just long enough.
It was just long enough. I will agree with that. I don't dislike the story itself. I think it's rather good. However, there are some tropes I'm getting tired of. I am getting tired of like long lost relative deciding in situations like this, deciding to be like exploitative.
Yeah.
I'm getting tired of it. I understand.
I think it's
where it
because a
comes
lot of
from.
people can relate.
Yeah.
It's definitely something our generation can relate to a lot, because a lot of our generation is tired of family members that are like low greed.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, we don't have family members straight up trying to
No.
kill us all the time. There are some that do. But we do have people have exploitative family members, and I think this is something people can relate to.
Yeah. I'm also, like, it's not a trope that I inherently dislike.
You just notice that it's occurring more.
Yeah. And the other one is, like, I was like, don't you fucking eat the planet juice. The planet fruit.
Yeah.
Fruit juice.
The fruit juice. Fruit by the foot.
I guess.
But yeah,
I was like,
and of course they had to leave. We kind of brushed it off, but they had to leave Lenara because of Ayuj eating the.
yeah.
Because like Ayuj was like, I'm sacrificing our chances of living here, but I'm also saving it.
Yeah.
Like I'm saving the planet by doing this. So
Like Aj, I think, made the correct decision.
And I think at the end of the day, it's better that nobody lives there.
Yeah.
Like and it will also give the planet time to heal, so that way if people do decide to live there later, the planet can heal from this.
Hopefully this won't happen all over again.
The good news is it's on nobody's star maps.
Yeah.
In fact,
I guess the secret died with Obi-Wan.
Yeah. And I guess, well, and if any, surprised Palpatine didn't try to find it, because like he built his, because the Jedi Temple became his palace during the Imperial era. Like he just so I'm surprised when like restructuring the Jedi Temple to be his palace, he didn't find the map.
Maybe he tried and the planet just intensely rejected.
I feel like that would be a good story. I would like to see an attempt of Palpatine trying to, because Palpatine loved just using anything to his advantage. So I wouldn't be surprised if he did find the map and was like, oh, we should use that.
I was thinking, like, I don't know what to call. I'm gonna call it like Lunaran stones.
Well, they just call it the power.
Power.
Yeah, you're just eating the power.
Don't eat the power.
What power? The power of voodoo. Who do you do? Do what? Sorry, the opening was there.
They are correct in about power in general, and that is a very hard thing to give up. Just as a whole.
Yeah. Hold on, my parents are here. I didn't realize they were
Okay.
here.
But
I didn't have my sound on or vibration on, so I didn't see the text right away. But we're basically wrapping up.
Yeah. I liked it.
I liked it. It was good. I'd give it. It wasn't the best Star Wars book, but it has a lot of good value to it. And it's short because it's a junior it's a junior novel. It's not like it's one of the Disney publishing books, so it's not a full-on novel. It's not a random.
Yeah.
It's not a Penguin book. It's not Del Rey. So I'd say you could probably finish it if you really sat down and wanted to read it. You could probably finish it in a day.
Yeah.
I think it's not any more than 400 pages.
No, it's less than 300.
Yeah.
It's about 250.
Yeah, so that
240.
easy read.
actually,
It's an easy
240
read.
on the dot.
It's an easy read.
Yeah.
So I'd give it an 8.5.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
All right. Well, thank you guys for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. That's youtube.com/Escape Reality Films. Feel free to comment as well if you're watching this on the video on demand and rather than live. If you're watching on Twitch, that's twitch.tv/CJ Star Wars 94. Feel free to follow or subscribe to the channel. Every little bit helps. And in fact, in talking about every little bit, we've got our Patreon, which I need to upload some stuff because I've got some updates on the comic book that I'm working on.
Oh boy.
We got some sketches. And so I'm going to put those up today. So if you join the Patreon, I think the first level lets you see the comic book stuff that we're doing. And that's patreon.com/Escape Reality Films, which is linked on the Twitch and in the description box down below for this video. And you can, we'll thank your mom, who's a Patreon member, Miss Jennifer. And so she's on the first level, so she gets to look at all that stuff and hang out in the Discord as well. And then we also need to thank Gamers and Geeks and Mobcast Network, who provide the space. Gamers and Geeks is our local game store. They have Magic the Gathering, D&D stuff. They've got an arcade in the back where you can play for $10 a day. You get a little wristband, and you can play free-play games. They got a lot of... There's one machine that has a bunch of games on it. They even got the old Michael Jackson game. What's the name of it?
Smooth Criminal?
No.
Moonwalker?
Moonwalker. And so, yeah, that's one of the games on there that you can choose from. They've got a lot of good games in the back. Get some classics. I think they got the Miss Pac-Man machine still back there. And some pinball. I like to play pinball every now and then. And then also connected to Gamers and Geeks is Engage Gaming. And you can do a monthly membership fee, and they'll let you play on the machines that they have. They got Xboxes, PlayStations, PC, VR machines. You basically join the membership, and you can get the games from them that you want to play as well. And so if you don't have a machine that you want to play, like say there's a new game you want to play that you can't because you just don't have a PlayStation or Xbox or whatever, that's a way to do it. And then Mobcast Network, they are the ones who actually rent out the space from Gamers and Geeks, and they provide the space to us. I produce some of their shows. They do Cult Movie Cantina, where we talk about classic movies. This upcoming week, we're going to be... This upcoming next movie, because we just did Star Trek 4, the one with the whales. And the next movie we're doing is Clerks, because the Clerks 3 is coming out. And so we're going to do Clerks and Clerks 2. So Kevin Smith. And we also do Tuesdays with Scotty, which is something we're putting a lot of backlog episodes into. So we're just filming a bunch and putting them in the backlog to release later. That's a show where Scotty just talks about whatever he feels like, and we have guests on. Recently, one of the ones we recorded where we had the people who made Demon Squad, which is like a local film that was shot here that I actually worked on. I ran boom mic for them, and that film was recently on Mystery Science Theater 3000. So it's gotten a cult following now thanks to that, and they're actually thinking of doing a sequel, doing a Kickstarter for it. So we got to talk to them a little bit about their history of making films and how they got to where they are now. And then another show is the Star Wars, My Star Wars Life, which is currently on hiatus. But we're going to be talking about Andor because that's coming out soon, the end of this month. A lot of good shows are coming out soon. Yeah. Sandman came out this week, the comic book one. Not Marvel Sandman, but the Neil Gaiman Sandman.
I see.
Yeah. And then also Lightyear was added to Disney Plus, which was good. All right. Well, that's everything, I think. I can't think of anything else. So thank you guys for watching. And we'll see you guys next week with Lego Star Wars Summer Vacation.
Shouldn't have given that man a list.
What do you mean? Oh, yeah. Oh, the Given Poe list. Yeah. So we're gonna get that, and then the week after that, we're gonna talk. I think Crimson Reign is after that,
I think so.
and we have 3 guests for that one.
Oh.
We got Chaco.
Boy.
We got Chaco, Hannah, and J Comics. So that's gonna be a fun episode. I'm probably gonna send us all a copy of Crimson Reign, so we could, as soon as that way we can start reading it now, because it's gonna be the length of War of the Bounty Hunters.
Oh. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. You should probably do that.
It's a good thing that the thing we're talking about next week is just a 1 hour special.
Yeah, you don't say.
So we'll see you guys next week with that. And I've spoken.